And you're thinking, so what? How does that affect me? What's the big deal? Well, keep in mind, everything about the aircraft, including you, operates on air pressure. Welcome back to the party. It's great to see you here. Thanks so much for clicking on that link and launching another episode of Mad Props Aero. Today, I'd like to talk to you about something that's absolutely critical to the success of any flight, but one that's not really well understood and not thought about a lot. And of course, I'm talking about pressure. This is the perfect time to click that subscribe button, like this video, and prepare to leave a scintillating comment with your opinion on this topic because we care. Now, back to the episode. Not practical test pressure, not knowledge test pressure, not recurrent training pressure. And yes, all pilots feel some internalized pressure when we have to go through testing. I'm talking about air pressure. You know, because undoubtedly you've read, standard pressure is 29.92 inches of mercury at sea level. Now, that doesn't mean you're ever going to actually see that, although you probably will. That's just a reference number we use. And the standard lapse rate is 1 inch per 1,000 feet. As we go up in the air, we should go from 29.92 to 28.92 to 27.92. And you're thinking, so what? How does that affect me? What's the big deal? Well, keep in mind, everything about the aircraft, including you, operates on air pressure. If you get high enough, the amount of oxygen in the air remains the same by percentage, but the pressure is low enough, it doesn't saturate your blood anymore, and you go to sleep. That's not good. Well, the same thing is true for the airplane. We need air pressure for the wings. We need air pressure for the propeller. We need air pressure to go into the induction system, whether that's fuel injected or carbureted. We have to have a certain amount of air mixing with fuel in order for the engine to run appropriately. That's why we have a mixture control. But let me show you a physical demonstration of how pressure works and why it's of some importance to us. Here is a bottle of water. You've seen them before. I bought this one at my local Publix because it's 94 degrees in Florida and hydration is important. You'll notice this is a very uniform bottle. It's sort of cylindrical. A lovely plastic device that's created in a factory somewhere, which is then shipped to another factory someplace where they put water and a label on it and charge you a ridiculous amount of money, but you're thirsty, so you buy it. Now, a separate bottle of water, this one I bought at the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport before a flight coming from Dallas back to Central Florida, where I belong. You'll notice this bottle is somewhat misshapen. It has been crushed, but it wasn't crushed by an anxious flyer who was squeezing on it. This was crushed by pressure. See, I drank this bottle of water, or part of this bottle of water, while I was on the flight from Texas. And then I sealed the cap on the top. We were cruising at 34,000 feet. Now, at 34,000 feet, unpressurized, I would be unconscious, and so would everybody else on the flight. In the interest of passenger comfort and consciousness, airplanes are pressurized. And at 34,000 feet, that airplane is pressurized to somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000 foot altitude. And that's what's inside this bottle. This air is not ambient air pressure from sea level where I live. This air is pressure found at 7,000 to 8,000 feet aboard that airliner that was pressurized for our comfort. Now, at 7,000 or 8,000 feet, most people are fairly comfortable if they don't have any kind of lung issues, cardiovascular issues. There's enough oxygen to support you sitting in a chair, reading a book, watching a video, taking a nap. But this does show you this bottle in cruise flight looked exactly like this bottle. But as we descended into denser, heavier, more pressurized air, this bottle collapsed because liquid is not compressible. Air is compressible. If I was to loosen the top on this bottle, this thing would spring right back into shape. But that is an excellent demonstration of what happens when you mix pressure from an altitude with pressure from sea level. And you think, well, what does that have to do with me? I don't care if Jamie crushed a bottle with sea level pressure. That's stupid. Hang on a second. Many of us flying general aviation aircraft never get above 10,000 feet. But an awful lot of us will get up to 5, 6, 7, 8,000 feet. The same pressure that's locked in this bottle. And this works in the opposite direction as well. Let's say you had a bag of Doritos or Cheetos or white cheddar popcorn in your airplane because you were going on a long trip and your family likes to pack snacks. I know mine does. At sea level, that bag of whatever the snack is nice and flexible. Everything's cool because it was packaged near sea level and you're near sea level. But as you take off and climb to altitude and get to 5, 6, 7, 8,000 feet, the pressure around you is dropping. The pressure in that bag is trapped. So it's going to get bigger and tighter, and it might result in a very loud bang while you're in cruise flight, which will startle you and your passengers. Trust me, this has happened before. It's a known reaction. Initially, you will wonder, did I just throw a jug? Did something really bad happen? Did I hit a buzzard way up here? Do I have damage to the airplane? And then the fragrance of snack foods will fill the cockpit because it has just exploded out of that bag. And you'll realize, oh, I'm a victim of falling atmospheric pressure. Look, this is just kind of a humorous way to look at it, but the reality is, air pressure is something we need to understand, and not just to pass a test. We want to understand it because as we go up and we need to lean out that mixture, there's a reason for that. Because the air pressure is dropping, we can't keep pumping in the same amount of fuel. Everything about aviation is kind of counterintuitive. It's not the way people think it works, which is why you, as a pilot, keep finding yourself talking to people over the coffee table or the lunch table at work and explaining, no, that's not how that works. Because aviation is very specific. Physics is involved, but we don't have to be a physicist to understand it or to operate safely in it. So let's just take this little lesson of the nice round bottle that's the way it should be and the crushed bottle, because this is also how it should be under the circumstances it experienced. Pressure is actually something we need to care about. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you'll come back and see us next time right here on your personal device for another episode of Mad Props Aero. I mentioned the mixture knob twice in this video. I hope you'll keep in mind, and we will do a video on this in the future, the throttle does not control gas.